Hello, everyone. So we are back, and here we are coming to join again to share together the workshop experience, the first one. Yeah, so you are even using the chat for your internal communication. Thank you so much. Just use it more and just share the links and ask questions. As we are recording this session, this workshop session, to make it public, so I will just very briefly at the beginning introduce myself for those who will be watching it later. And then I will share my presentation and we will be working together. I will just outline the time schedule for the workshop once I will be talking. So from now on, we are recording and I'm officially starting. So good morning, everyone. My name is ANDREA PRÚCHOVÁ and I'm the director of the Fresh Eye platform for the study of visual cultures and also a co-organizer of the WAVE program, which is a two-day online series called Workshops on Activism and Visuality in Europe, along with Nicholas Mertzev, who will be the guest of tonight's program. In this 2 days program, we are experiencing a series of workshops in which I'm very grateful to have an opportunity to contribute to. And this workshop is the first one from the 6 lectures and moderated debates and more interactive sessions, which we are experiencing today on Friday, November 19th, and we will be continuing on Saturday, November 20th. Today's workshop is called Visual Archives of Migration, and I will be drawing upon my research work, which I recently published in European Journal of Cultural Studies. But what is most important, I've been following this project and this issue for many, many years, actually for more than 6 years. I've been still working on it. It's an ongoing project of mine. And in the heart of this project lies the interest about the media representation of the refugees, specifically in the region of Central Europe, where I do count 4 countries: Czech Republic, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. All of you who are participating today in the workshop, you got an opportunity to read in advance the article, which I will be very briefly talking about. And also then I would like to make you more engaged in the topic. So after my, I suppose, a 30-minute presentation, which will be really addressing the main moments of the research project and of the article. So then I will give you actually time and space to work in breakout rooms for 40 minutes when you will be searching for some photographs. You will be trying to detect some patterns of how refugees are represented through media. And then we will do short collective presentations of your findings, and we will run the final discussion about your findings. So at the beginning, I will start with my short presentation. Also, if you will feel during the presentation that something is not clear, so then please just go ahead and join my talk and ask your questions. So as already said, I'm working here on the topic of visual representations of migration, mostly with media representation of refugees. When we are talking about the migration, why this is the important topic, so obviously it can, for the first very brief look, it can seem to be very pressing topic of the day, as we are nowadays talking about the situation, kind of very traumatic events which are happening at the Polish and Belarusian borders. Still the migration is going on from the southern regions to the northern ones. And there are so many conflicts happening all around the world, which force people to leave their households, their homes, and to travel to find just some safe place. And so we are not only talking about economical migration due to economic reasons, but we are mostly talking about some basic need to rescue and to save the lives of your own beloved ones and your children. So even though the migration at this moment has been the topic for a while, and obviously it's the topic that resonates in the global media, in the regional media, I think that it deserves also a deeper reflection. I would like just to very briefly to point out on some important theoretical reflections that even though we can definitely read and learn more about the migration as a civilizational phenomenon, as a process, as a sociological process which has been happening in our or throughout our history, and actually is a kind of a trigger of the development of our cultures. So then even we have a very important authors, and here I would like to highlight the figure of Stewart Hall, who actually saw and understood migration as the kind of main paradigm of how to understand our culture. And here I would like to actually deliver two quotes, a very short ones from this phenomenal book, which is the biography of Stewart Hall, which he co-wrote with Bill Schwartz. It's actually the last book he published in his life, and it's called Familiar Stranger, A Life Between Two Islands. And this book actually describes the life story of Stewart Hall, and we can see how much his own story interacts with the theoretical concepts that he was working on, he developed, or he drew upon from the work of other authors. And here, when we are talking that we can use the migration as a main perspective through which we can better understand the culture in general in which we are nowadays living in, so then I would like to share these two following quotes. The first one is dedicated to the identity as something which is deeply related with the process of becoming. As the becoming, we know that Stewart Hall was the author who started to write about the politics of identity, mostly in the 60s and 70s, where his work started to be more articulated about this issue. And this is the same time when actually other authors, like for example, Gilles Deleuze, were coining this term of becoming and thinking about this ongoing process of self-articulating of your own identity. So here is the quote from the page number 63. Identity in the singular is never achieved with any finality. Identities in plural are the means for becoming. So here we can see that the author gives us the highlight to think about us in terms of multiplicity, of ourselves, even us in our everydayness, in our everyday life. What is our identity is never finalized. We are always delving, and we are always dealing with the process of self-articulation, of self-expressing, and we are multiple. We are experiencing, we are learning, we are growing, and we are growing through others always. So the second quote comes from the chapter, from the page 76, and already gives us a hint about this last point on the slide. And this is why diasporic cultures are so important and can be seen as an infrastructure or the interface, like a basal interface and basal infrastructure of our contemporary society, according to Stewart Hall. So what he writes on the page 76, our critique made it possible to reimagine cultures as what James Clifford and others designated traveling ones. Cultures on the move, constantly reconfigured through discovery, conquest, migration, adaptation, enforced assimilation, resistance, and translation. In other words, a culture not of roots, but of roots, which invites a mode of interpretation which I have been designating here as diasporic. So this is also this great articulation of the difference of roots, of where we are embedded, where we think that our historical, cultural, sociological heritage is, where is this burden of here and now, but actually this is the transfiguration of this here and now definition, but goes more to us being a global citizens of here and now, which is global, that the burden that we have, which is historical, sociological, economical, the capital that we are using for articulating ourselves, different capitals, they are actually global sources that we are using, and that we are constantly on move, even though we feel that our life in a way can be experienced from one similar, in a way, regional point. We are global citizens. Always we are on move, even though we are physically in one place. We can feel this migration, these processes of adaptation, these processes of resistance and translation, as we are experiencing a dialogue or multilogue with others and with other cultures. Even now in the digitized era, even more, we are learning and sharing, and we need to understand how important are these processes of translation, of the translating others' experience. But for translating, firstly, you have to be a listener. And this is a great point that definitely we can think of ourselves when the visual activism starts, when we are observers and when we are listeners. Maybe at the beginning, we do not have to take a direct action. We don't have to call for action the others. Firstly, we have to think about our own positions. And then from that, we can be responsible in creating the action. So to end this first slide, the last quote also comes from the page 76. In other words, we have to recognize that the dynamics of displacement underwrite all social relations. Displacement, not only like the migration, the physical one, the way how the communities are traveling, but also the way how we are traveling in our inner world, how we are changing our own representation of who we are and how we define our social relationships to others. So this was the basic idea, kind of the conceptual idea, theoretical idea behind the whole project. And then the research project itself focused actually on researching media representations from the very specific 3 periods of time. I was focusing specifically on 3 early stages of so-called refugee or migration crisis, the way how it was labeled by the global media. So I'm talking here about the early months of the 2015, and I was actually doing the research for or collecting the data from first year of this global process. I was always designing these research timetable according to 1 month of collecting the visuals. So the first month was from the 1st April to the end of the April 2015, when actually this was the decision made based on the statistics, which were for the first time published, released, and were showing the increasing numbers of people who were thrown while they were trying to get to the Europe from the African continent. Then specifically, I was researching in 1 month from the mid of November till the mid of December 2015, when the terrorist attacks in Paris happened, and they represented a huge shock, and they contributed to more kind of alarm and negative portrayal of refugees who were coming to Europe in great numbers already at that time. And then I focused to conclude and to finalize this 1 year of collection of research data was the end of March and until the end of April of next year, of the following year, 2016, when the EU and Turkey were signing the deal about the numbers of the refugees who are going to be held in Turkey and who are going to stay there and get the treatment from the side of the Turkish government. In general, from these 3 months, which were covering this first year of migration or refugee crisis, I've collected, with the help actually of my students, 556 photographs, and based on the mixed method analysis, when I was combining quantitative analysis, which was based on social semiotic analysis of images, so very soft analysis, with the quantitative one, with the visual content analysis, when I was trying to search for categories and repetitive patterns which are visible on those media photographs. So this was the combination of the hard and soft method, which actually enabled me in my research design to lower down the number of pictures that I was working with. So I just actually kept the group of pictures which were repetitively displayed, which provided me with some figures when there were specifically display and portrayal with a specific representation of refugees, and then to analyze these repetitive patterns through these softer methods. I combine a different aspects of visual analysis coming from the art historic methods, but more in detail you can read about it in that article I mentioned at the beginning, and you had a chance to read it. So I was working always with a set of 2 media outlets from these 4 countries, which are part of the Visegrad Group Union. So I was always combining one media outlet which represents more, let's say, a kind of conservative media outlet, which is targeting a general readership, and then I was actually also combining it with the more tabloid-oriented press. So there was Lidové noviny and Blesk from the Czech Republic, SME and CAS from the Slovakia, Gazeta Wyborcza and Fakt from Poland, and Magyar Nemzet and Blik from Hungary. So what were the concepts which I was working with? So again, just briefly, more in a nutshell, I was really interested in, if it's possible, to actually see and to detect in these media photographs, which are published in these diverse media outlets of the Central European region, if it's possible to see there some common patterns of visualization. This is something that I've called for myself transnational imagination of refugees. So obviously there was something going on in the Czech Republic. Just as being an observer at that time, actually I was spending my academic year in New York as a Fulbright scholar. So this was also for me the way actually how to act responsibly, really to be a critical observer, because I was not able to participate, to engage, really to travel back to Europe, to do any kind of volunteering work. So this was my response to that as a visual activist, to conduct a research and to get the data and to analyze them and to be able to interpret them for the larger audience. So obviously, just from being an observer of the Czech media outlets, I saw that there are some patterns that can be that are repeated. And at that moment, I've decided to learn more about the Central European region, which at that time seemed to be very much united in the very highly articulated refusal of any refugees entering the Central European region. And in a way, the Central European countries involved in the Visegrad Union and platform, they actually made a kind of a strong political expression against, in a way, acceptive politics, which was articulated by Germany and Angela Merkel. So it was really also a kind of a political performance that was happening in these countries. So I was curious if they also represent in a similar way or in some common way. Media represent the refugees, and they share the media representations of refugees. What was for me important was to understand the asymmetry as the logics of the refugee photography. The asymmetry which lies or can be seen from two main perspectives. The first one is this asymmetry of the power, because who has the power to represent the refugees? Those are the media, those are the global media agencies, those are the photo agencies, the big press agencies which work and act globally, and then their pictures are bought and spread locally. So this was the idea of which media representations do circulate and do talk to everyday readers in the Central European region. And obviously they are providing the gaze of the outsiders. They are not providing any space for the gaze of insiders. I mean, for the way how refugees themselves would like to be represented. There is no visual voice for them. They are completely silenced. So then they can be depersonalized, they can be dehumanized, they can be portrayed as having no history, no personal history. They can be gendered, and there can be many other processes that then we can see on these individual pictures and in those individual patterns, because there is this issue of who has the power to represent, and again, again and again to deliver a political portrayal of someone, some mental visual scheme that will become a part of our collective awareness of how refugees do act, how they do look, and who are they as figures, physical objects that are moving. Where? What they want? No one is asking. They are just there. Those are like they are just empty shells, empty images in a way, because they have no voice, they have no history, they have no role. They are just there and they are observed. And also the other asymmetry, the other aspect that we can apply is this very famous idea of the metonymic character of photography, the moment that actually the photography has the capacity to substitute some historical events or some moments and some actions, that there are some significant photographs which, for example, do represent Holocaust. Just think about the railroads coming to the Auschwitz Tower, or think about the first representation of the first photography of our planet Earth, called Blue Marble, and others. They do actually embody the whole ideas, the whole eras, the whole historical events. So I was curious, what are these images which actually do create this collective concepts, this collective mental concepts of refugeedom, of refugeehood, and of migration in general. And then there is also a very strong theoretical concept by Barbie Zelizer, which is called the subjunctive voice of photography, which again makes is contributing to this very dialectical, in a way, dynamic of asymmetry, which enables you, on contrary, even though the pictures can generalize and substitute some details and some individual histories of people, there are some pictures like grand visual narratives which capture the era, which capture the event, but also the photography has the capacity of expressing the subjecting voice. And according to Barbie Zelizer, she thinks that they can ask you, what if I were the one being on the borders, protecting my child, having my baby in my hands? What if I were beaten by someone? I were harassed, or I were traveling, not knowing where I will end up. And they make kind of like a analytical bridge through which we can travel and we can project ourselves individually, place ourselves into the photography. So on one hand, this asymmetry can be a really, can detach the refugees from being represented and being present on photographs. On the other hand, the photographs can actually abstract and can generalize. This is another moment of asymmetry, but also they can invite us to participate in the stories. So all of that creates a very complex dynamics of visual communication through refugee photography, at least from how I understood it. So then these are the visual figures, which I just want to briefly show you specific examples. We will go through all three stages. So we are at the beginning, complete beginning of the so-called refugee or migration crisis. And we have here the first visual figure, which was very present in this the month of April of 2015. And this is helpless female victim. We can see many women who are seen as traveling alone and who are saved by the male European guarders or rescuers. This was the specific story of a young woman from Ethiopia who actually ended up being asked to become a model working for European fashion houses. So actually this was also like the story of the woman who came here, was rescued, and always there was this depiction of her finding like a happy new life in Europe. Then the other, like a gendered portrayal of woman, was this figure which we can see also in the second stage of the research in the end of 2015, but also at the beginning of 2015. And this is this very iconic pattern of Madonna and child. So this is the moment when the women there are assigned the role of mothers and keepers. So here it's interesting for me to see that not only like women, like female refugees who are traveling with the kids are being portrayed in this position or role of Madonna and child, but also of female rescuers. So immediately we can see that this gendered roles and women being seen and articulated as mothers is present here immediately. And what is very specific for the first stage is this representation of anonymous masses. So you have many photographs of people traveling on boats when you are not able to recognize their faces. And this depersonalization, this anonymization of refugees plays a very important role, because if you don't see the faces, you don't see the feature of the bodies, then there is something to be afraid of. This is the mass of people. Those are the bodies who are coming and entering something that you call home. You don't know who are they because you don't have a chance to get familiar with them. They are always seen in distance as a group of bodies. Usually those are male bodies. So then you can actually find a lot of literature and research literature that talks about this immediately, those triggers of perception, which is very highly negative, which is very protective, which is really triggering the very biological and basal emotion of fear. Then from the second stage, when we were collecting the data from this month when the Paris attacks were happening, we can see the representation of many representatives of police and military. Those are mostly male figures, and we can see them in the clash, in the collision, and very effective, negatively effective performative moments of fights, of some discussions, highly heated debates between the representatives of police and military and the refugees themselves. This picture got, I think, a very significant prominence because it's at that moment there is lying on the ground the mother with a child. Again, there is also this this figure of the Madonna and child. And at that moment, this picture is kind of tricky because you cannot see specifically if actually the woman is beaten up by a representative of the official side, or actually he's helping her. As in background, you can see that there is going on more kind of negative, aggressive physical action. So is there a kind of helping or again, aggressivity going on? We don't know. It's very difficult to decode it. It's a very interesting picture. Then the second stage was really because of the attacks in Paris, which really put a lot of pressure on the way how the refugees were represented, more related to the roles of terrorists or hidden terrorists. So actually any migrant can immediately turn, or refugee can be turned into a terrorist. So this role and this icon, visual icon of migrant / terrorist was very present there. So in these, this is a very specific picture showing this performative action when someone wanted to stay in a silent resistance, which we know also as a kind of performative element from the political performative art. So these pictures of migrant terrorists, they were usually showing male figures who were performatively articulating their resistance, doing some bodily protests, sewing up their mouth, or creating the banners through which they were articulating their disagreement with what is happening. And then we have another series of pictures. This one is an icon or a visual pattern of imprisoned children. So these are the children who are always visible as being behind the fence, that actually they are detached from you. They are somewhere locked. And as we know, so children, they always serve as a huge emotional triggers, as all the different research projects can tell us. So the separation of children, this idea of how these young generations, what is their specific experience of refugeedom and of migration, what it is. So these are very sensitive pictures which are working well in terms of emotional relation of readers. There is this procession of people, which you can see that people are on a move. So they are not coming as anonymous masses on the boats, but those are the communities of people who are traveling. At this moment, they are not seen from the far distance, but you can observe their faces. Usually you recognize the communities, you recognize the families, you can get a little bit of the story. So more a kind of like, they are not so dehumanized. They are here, you can recognize some facial elements, some body elements. They have some specific shape. They have some specific trajectory. They are going from somewhere to somewhere, but actually there is the question where they will end up. So you can see them only like they are on the move. All the time, they are just moving like a physical object. More, it's like a theatrical point of view, that they are like the figures which are moving and nobody wants them. And then the Madonna and child, again, very much present here. And then we have the last figures from the third stage, which is the figure of the lonely adult male migrant. The men who were older, who were not seen as the young ones, they were seen still being kept in the refugee camps, being kept behind the fence, still with this distance or differentiation of us and them. Who is behind the fence? Who is in the world moving freely? So this us and them distinction was still kept and telling through this picture. And these men, they were seen without no family, without no friends, without no social relationships, and in a way with no future. And on contrast, there were seen the group of like children and also younger men who were having non-European features and who were presented as actually being able and capable of integration into the society. So if you are young enough, so then you can actually go through some processes of assimilation. You are enough of flexible. So again, we can see that the aspect not only of gender, but for example, of age as well is very much important in the way what kind of stereotypical visual representations can be delivered to media in terms of refugee representations. So this was where I was heading. If there is some transnational imagination of refugees that can be found in the Central European media, and my finding was that I do suppose, based on my research and what I was showing you, that there are some central visual patterns and iconic figures that do repeat and that they do create this visual collective schema that we have about the refugees. And then I was trying kind of to put it in comparison to what already others researched about in terms of visual typology of European news and the way how the European news, they do represent refugees. So I was working with more authors, but for our workshop, I would like to mention here these two women, Chuliaraki and Stoich in 2017. They actually, they articulated 5 perspectives through which refugees are represented in the European media. First, that there is the visibility as a biological life, so we can see the bodies, we can see these anonymous masses, no people, just bodies, just objects. Then we have this visibility as empathy, so we have here some moments of solidarity. We are mothers, we have the families, we have the children. So the Madonna and child would be this moment of this kind of visibility being implemented into the representation. Then we have the visibility as threat, migrant terrorists for sure, or representatives of police and military would be the case. That visibility as hospitality, maybe this young future, when we will actually create a multicultural society, we will be able to raise your children along with you. We will help them, we will provide them with the education, with some infrastructure, economical, social one, emotional one, and this visibility as self-reflexivity, when actually there is some moment for reflection of the position of refugees, which actually was not at all present in the Central European media, of self-reflexivity, that actually we give the voice and we give the visibility to refugees, and we let them to present their gaze of insiders. So this is just the brief kind of overview of my research and the article you had a chance to read, and now comes the group work. So in 40 minutes, you will be able to work together. We prepared the break rooms in which you will be working together, and we prepared 3 break rooms. There will be 3 work groups. So I will ask you to use the internet search, and then in your groups, each group will be searching for visuals from different events. You will learn the event based on the title of your group. So there is migration and Holocaust. There is migration and Yugoslavian war. There is migration and Polish-Belarusian borders. So based on the title of your group, you will understand visuals of which event you are supposed to search for. So just Google the images, try to find different sources, and try to think in the group about these patterns, if there are some patterns which are visible or not, which are some similarities. If you can decode something that I've shown you, if you can decode something else, if you can actually think about this biological life, you can see about this empathy being present there, about the threat, about the hostility, or about providing a space for showing and displaying this self-reflexivity. So this will be your task for these following 40 minutes. And then we will have a time to get together after 40 minutes. The break room will actually make you to come back to this session. You don't have to do anything. You will see just the countdown that you have the last 1 minute, and then you will get back here and we will do screen sharing, and each group will present the findings. So you will show us some important pictures that do represent your findings. Yeah. So, and then we will be able to facilitate the discussion. So at this moment, I will thank you for your attention, and please enjoy your group work, and we will meet in 40 minutes. Thank you so much.
Andrea, sorry to interrupt. Just we are missing a few participants, and in the last group is only 2 people. Do you want to rearrange the assignments?
Yes, so if we can move someone from the first group to the third one, then yes.
Okay, I will move Chrisia.
Okay, good. Thank you. David.
The rooms are opened.
Thank you so much. See you in 40 minutes.
Thank you, Andrea.
Dobrý, Davide, díky moc. Teďko přišel tam s Běluškou. Ahoj.
OK, díky.
Or our or or our, like it's not necessary to, you know, break points for that, but we can also, because it's like we are both from Czech Republic, right, and another countries, so we can maybe focus on our region first, or I don't know, maybe just like.
You mean the media we will be checking,
Yeah.
or yeah?
Yeah, anyway.
So hello, welcome back. We are waiting for others to join. I hope that the internet didn't swallow them up, that they will come. Okay, it looks like there are still 20 seconds to go and the others will come. Okay, thank you, David, for the information. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for your work in groups. I hope that you've enjoyed it. That again, it was a little bit different dynamic than the first initial session, then the presentation, and now closer discussion within your own groups. So now we still have some time, which is great for you to share your findings, and then we would do a short discussion at the end. So because there were 3 groups, so I would like to ask each group to present what you found. So if we can start with the group number 1, which was searching and analyzing the pictures from the Holocaust. So if there is one representative or you are going to collectively do it, I will leave that up to you. So please, the first group, if you can start, I appreciate that.
Well, we haven't agreed on how to present, but like who will, but so maybe let's share it. Let's like maybe we Natalie, would you like to start, because like you're up like alphabetically your photos are the first to be. What do you think, group?
Oh, can I have a suggestion?
Yeah.
We would appreciate just, you know, if you give us, if you start second, can we start second with our presentation?
Okay, good. If you need that, for sure. So I will ask the group number 2 or 3 if you feel that you are ready. So then the war in Yugoslavia or the pictures from the current situation on the borders between Poland and Belarus.
What does my group think? Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Oh, you are great. Oh, thank you guys.
I will try to share the screen because we were trying to work on Miro. Am I screening it?
Yes, we can see your screen. Yeah, thank you. You've done a lot in such a short time. Just the visuals. Wow.
And we will all present. I'm just starting, but others will follow up, I believe. We each of us chose a slightly different approach in as for the sources and stuff, but we agreed on many patterns. For example, I found this pattern of woman crying, weeping, which I named La Llorona, which you can see down on the right. Then what we agreed on is something like a devastated country, also liminality in as for the space. And now I would invite the others to continue.
Yeah, I can. So thank you. And I actually enjoyed the process, and 40 minutes wasn't long enough because it's an interesting actually exercise in searching something that's maybe even prima facie without context. You know, you're not sure what you're looking for if you don't understand necessarily the context or the history of the images you're being shown. So it was also a methodological challenge of sorts, how to organize the images, how to see the images, how to think about the images, or what, so to speak, what mental instruments to use while looking at the images. So what I did was because I'm the only one from the actual ex-Yugoslavia here, so I wanted to take a bit different approach. So I Googled homeland war from Croatia in English and in Croatian, and I Googled it. So there's, as you can see, I'm not sure if you can zoom in on those two images, the left one and the right one, because you're sharing the screen, Magdalena. So I'm not sure if it's zoomable. Yeah. And I found that the images of the homeland war in Croatian and in English are completely different. So in the case, or I can just, great. So the first one on the left, or I can just share the image. So the first one on the left is the image that you get when you're Googling it in Croatian. And mostly from the 18 images, 3 of them are close-ups. It's the so-called effective image, I would say. 10 of them are wider shots, but still close and fast shots. And only 5 are generalized images of people, or people being not looking directly to the camera. But while searching in English, most of the images are actually images with armies or with state commemorations of the war or the monuments. So not effective image, but so to speak, political image or the historic image. So that was the first intuitive thing that I did, was to see how the images are mirrored depending on the intended audience of those images. So for the Croatian side, we have the affective, the emotional image, and for the international crowd, we have the historic image. We have even the nation-building image with Croatian flags, with the monuments, and with the military and state officials. So for now, I would stop here, and later I can also join with a couple of different ideas. But for now, I'm going to stop here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say?
Yeah, and I choose the different path. So I looking for the images. I try to find some different narratives, or there are any different narratives. And the first I focused on, or try to find the images where we might find some refusal of being pictured. And I drawed upon your observation that migrants are muted and are disposed the possibility to self-representation. So now we see only one images, a woman who is covering her face with the hand. And of course, I don't know, it's not now really based in any like profound research, but I had kind of observation, okay, what is a possibility to have that influence, how I am pictured, how do I go viral, or me as a person, as a very person, and not a part of some crisis, not as a refugee. So yeah, the other one, oh yeah, thank you. That one in the hospital. So I found a couple of such narratives. Of course, I don't know if they fit perfectly or it demands probably a better or proper research. And then secondly, I looked for some points when we could recover, we could find North Global or globally universal operating agencies, and in which perspective we have put together like migrants, refugees, and us as a global North or whatever universally. Oh, please, could you, oh yeah, the one with Red Cross, Magda. Yeah, the one. Yes, this is like a picture took in Sarajevo, as I learned to know, and we have that couple like happy, and we have with this logo, and the other also refugee, yeah, exactly, refugee camp in Croatia with so with the logo, and we have that that image of empathy and hospitality, and migrants finally taken care, like in the safe place, together with our representation as logos. So I try to find such, yeah.
Can I speak? And just to finish, I noticed, actually, I looked more in the Bosnian narrative, and I found this Madonna with Child that Andrea was speaking about a lot. And most of the images are of women and children, and men are, when you see images of men, usually they are from the army force, they are the enemy. So most of the images are of women and their children, or women by themselves. And that's all I have to say.
I forget one last thing. I mentioned, like for myself, I mentioned just the devastated country and the weeping lady, La Llorona. But I also wanted to, I also found many pictures showing resistance. As for protest or picketing, or just a banner with something written on it, but I didn't have the time to put it there. So just another subcategory.
Thank you. And I know we were bound with time, so just for a couple of seconds more, maybe for people that are interested in the topic. So in the upper left corner of your screen, you'll see the screenshot from a film. It's a film of Želimir Žilnik called Kennedy's Coming Home. It's a film devoted to the people expelled from Germany after the Yugoslavian wars without any necessarily reason to be expelled. And the film, it's a documentary about the families coming back to Yugoslavia, actually not speaking Yugoslavian language anymore because they've been to Germany for so long, or not having their homes also in Yugoslavia anymore because they found their life in Germany, sometimes for 5, 10, or even 20 years. So it's just one of a self-representational, so to speak, film about a director that's giving voice to the asylum seekers that got expelled. And on the right, also there are so many examples, but I'm gonna stop here regarding the voice of the refugees and the migrants, even from the Yugoslavian war. So there are in the media, but also there are so many photographic activities and projects regarding those kinds of images, but yeah, we're bound with time.
Thank you very much to all of you participating in this group. I would also like just to comment regarding Želimir Žilnik's work, that at this moment, I think that it's been just a few months published, this Feminist Text, the new book delivered by him. So I highly recommend it. I just listed through it, actually scanned it in a way. So I haven't read it yet properly, but that's good. Thank you so much. I think that it was, I have so many comments that I would like to definitely give, but I think that at this moment, let's speak the others that we will finish these presentations. So I will ask the other two groups. I don't know if the Holocaust, it's so weird to say the Holocaust group is ready. The group working on the topic of Holocaust, the visual of Holocaust is ready. That sounds definitely better. So Pavel, are you ready and your group?
Pavel, can you share the screen?
Okay.
Yeah, I suggest the approach we took to present it first. We've decided to test a bit of how our individual Google algorithms work. Eventually, to see it through, to try to see the lens, try to see the contours of the lens through which we are looking as well. So we put same phrase in our own language, migration in Czech, migrace, Holocaust, and the same went for my colleagues. And each of us, we picked from 10 to 20 photographs. and we group them according to, you know, who did the search. So whoever wants to start first from our group, I think it's a good, we take the approach similar to the previous one, that one by one we go through our package, because honestly we didn't manage, you know, to, you know, cut through the whole package. We just went through the photograph and we discussed what we didn't manage to discuss all of them. So maybe it's good to do with this middle step. So Natalie presents her photographs and what the patterns she recognized there, and Julia does the same for hers, if I can recommend.
Okay.
Yeah. So Julia, Natalie, who wants to start?
I can start. I think mine are on top.
Okay, so I will just give you, yeah. I will do the sharing, and you can, I will do clicking for you. Or no, you know what, no, that's bullshit. I will send a link to you and you can do your own clicking. I think it's easier. Sorry for this. Yeah, it's here. I'm sending it over to Natalie. Yeah, here we go. Now you have a link with your photographs, and I'm sending a link to Julia.
Oh, now I have to wait.
Does it work?
Yes, but now I have to share my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, you are supposed to be allowed to do that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it works. Thank you. Yeah,
Great.
we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, well, one of the pictures were like the men are Americans giving cigarettes to the yeah, well, like more like a savior, like also in the other pictures. Oh, sorry. Yes, and this was more like also anonymity. It was also in the newspapers, the children who were deported to the camps. Yeah, there were many pictures of children. That was one pattern as well. These are German children who wanted to flee to the Netherlands before the war, and that was really extremely difficult because, yeah, the Netherlands shut down actually also for the refugees. Children again, all on the move, people on the move, crowds, a lot of children and women, as said before. The migration to Israel, there were also many pictures from that, the boats. Children fled to Iran. And this is a picture from, if you Google it in the Netherlands, you see all these pictures from demonstrations from anti-corona protesters, or what is it? Who are like seeing the unvaccinated, or the people who are not vaccinated as Jewish people, that they are threatened as well. So this was one of the pictures. Women, children again. Yeah, I think it were my pictures already.
Cool. Okay, so should I start sharing my screen? Are you not, Natalie? Are you
Yes.
done? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So okay, so you should. Yeah. Okay, now I can do that. Great. And yeah. Well, so in my case, can you see my screen already?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Thank you.
I see that you're nodding. Okay, so since I was Googling in Polish, well, the interesting thing is that the first thing I found when I Googled migracja Holocaust, it was just that. And it's not much about Holocaust. And but I put Shoah in Polish. It's zagłada. So it's not, it doesn't have much to do with Holocaust, but I think it's because like we don't associate the word migration with Holocaust because of the Central European and mostly Polish experience. So when I tried to narrow it down to, for example, Holocaust, Jewish Holocaust, etc., and migration, then I had much more findings. Obviously, after some Googling, I found the most iconic stuff like ghetto, oh, it's loading, I'm sorry, but like iconic pictures from building the ghetto wall in Warsaw, the most thing I found is that if you put the migration part to Googling, it's mostly about 68. So
actually, Julia, I think that you have now
I think
slightly poor Wi-Fi connection. At least on my side, I can barely understand you.
As well, but maybe when you are stop screening, it will be better.
Yeah.
Or not do both things at the same time.
So maybe Julia, just if you can share verbally without share screen.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, I think that there is a problem with your Wi-Fi connection at this moment. So
Yes, I think it's.
Yeah, I will ask Pavel now if he can actually.
Hey.
Yeah, you are back.
Oh, am I back? Do you hear me or?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe I will just tell and maybe.
Yeah, just tell, please,
Okay,
verbally. Yeah, thanks.
So well, there are obviously like iconic pictures of Auschwitz or Warsaw Ghetto and other ghettos as well, and you probably most of the most known pictures are geographically from Poland, so you probably know half of them. But another chapter that appeared there is the 68. So the anti-Semitic campaign in Poland, like extremely traumatizing one, when like almost like huge part of those Jews who survived the Holocaust and decided to stay in Poland after the war, they got expelled. Yeah, they got like one-way ticket to like abroad, not only to Israel, but in the propaganda it was mostly about Israel. So that's what comes if you Google. Like that's one of the interesting traits we might find if you Google migration and Holocaust in Polish, because like Holocaust in our, like for me, like terms like migration and deportation connected to the Holocaust is like very foreign and Western understanding of perspective on Holocaust, because like it happened here. So it's the term migration here was a bit like not necessarily misleading, but it's not obvious in the Polish case, I'd say. And since I'm not talking, like obviously there were children and the walls and trains, of course, trains or railways. So those are the most iconic things I would find. I'm not showing anything anymore, so I think I might stop here and give the floor to Pavel. I'm sorry for the connection. I will try to improve it for the rest of the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How much time do I have, just to make sure we are on a right track?
So actually 5 minutes would be fine. So then there are still 10 minutes for the last
group. Okay.
Yeah, and then we can do a short discussion.
Okay, nice.
For 15 minutes, so we still have more than 1 hour of break. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So there's no pressure. Fine. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. So first, let's try. These are 16 images I came across first. I didn't go to second, third, fourth page of Google search. This is front page of the Google search, and as I said, I typed in migrace Holocaust, and let's maybe skim the surface first of what we see in the corpus. I think my search engine managed to give me the pictures of movement. That's maybe the migrace part in several instances, either pre-war or post-war. These might be the post-war case, the survivors. This one looks like pre-war movement. There's an officer or military personnel. This one is particularly striking. I find this really strong photograph. again, maybe has something to do with the archetype of Madonna or the child, woman, and the children. But avoiding we are not able to see their faces, but it's nevertheless very powerful picture. Maybe because of that, it's very powerful, at least for me. Movement. This is pre-war, and I always try to put a source where this came from, and at least 1/3 of the photographs came from holocaust.cz website. So I think the Google search engine make it simple for itself, and these are Roma people, but I'm not sure the subtitle for this photograph was learning, or let's say educating ourselves about Holocaust. I can tell you more about the context. When it comes to movement, this is very this is the picture that accompanied a release of the audio recordings from the wartime, and recordings of songs, the contemporary songs, which is supposed to be a chilling experience. But what we see in the photograph, let's not go into how it's contextualized today, the very gendered photograph, women queuing, I mean, a lot of tension, I believe. It speaks for itself. There's another layer of the photograph, or the visuals I found. Let's maybe start with this one, the symbolism. This comes from as you see, the Shutterstock.com, the large agency that provides photographs, sells photographs. It was mixed next to primarily black and white pictures. Next to it, I found this one, and this might be a food for thought. It comes from a tabloid newspaper, I assume from Germany, but this appeared in Tiskali.com, which is a Czech magazine, and it shows a paper. How do you call this? A paper vystřihovánka. It's supposed to be a protective for Jews, and the question in the article, paper cut, exactly. And the question of the article is, does it really help to make paper cuts that protects you if you're a Jew? Does it make sense? So that's the maybe anti-Semitic undertones there. Quite interesting. Let's go to Czech Republic. Okamura, this is a person you see in the picture, is denying a Roma Holocaust. That's quite a famous case in Czech Republic. What we see here, a smiling politician. I think this photograph resonated a lot. I mean, this photograph has been seen for many times, maybe I think for different cases, or let's say claims he made in recent years. So it has nothing to do directly with the, I would say, photograph itself. Yeah, it portrays the author of the claims. I mean, yeah, and his political aspirations somehow, with the Prague castle in the back. And this one came in the first group of photographs. It's very recent. This is a conference which took place, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it discusses remembrance. That it acknowledges the fact that those who remember, they are almost gone, and what to do next. What to do with archives, how to fight anti-Semitism. That was a second important thought, and Emmanuel Macron had a speech. So what we see here, forum, a discussion place, how, I think, which relates to his historical experience. It's a place of conversation, of mediation as well. So we see displays, digital displays. And I think, and this one is quite important as well. This is the way, I'm not sure this is international project, just correct me, but at least in Czech Republic, these are some cobblestones were substituted for those, metallic pieces, which commemorates victims of the Holocaust. And you can come across, you walk the streets and you find them around. But maybe someone in the room knows more about this type of project.
Yeah, it is international. It's
international.
Yeah, it's in Berlin, in Germany, in Austria as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah, in Budapest as well.
Okay.
But not in Poland.
Yeah, and just the last one, another strategy how to visualize the infographic. This has something to do with the movement of survivors shortly post-war. Yeah, Czech TV is the source. So patterns, I don't know, maybe you came across certain patterns. I think that's all I have. That's all I have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Pavel, and thank to all of you who participated in this group, Natalie and Julia. And now we would move to the last group, which was searching for the photographs or visuals representing what is happening in these days on the borders between Poland and Belarus. And then we will take just a few minutes for more like the discussion or maybe comments on what we've experienced, and then I will just project questions which I would like to raise, but we can just leave them open. That's fine.
Yeah, so the last group is actually just Teresa and me, because
we kind of lost the connection. So
yeah, we lost the connection with Kasia. I'm not sure now, sorry. So I will share my screen first, because we tried to do it together, but if Teresa wants to show something else, I will just start. So we tried to categorize the images we saw, and first of all, yeah, we had a plan that we first of all start to check the media of the countries of our origin, so just check finally, and then to compare it with the international media or other media, but there was no time for doing that, so it's just Czech Republic. But the first category I wanted to show was the most often kind of representation, what we called like representation of the military power or of the military control. That was really the most common one. And I also, or we noticed that there is quite often seen some romanticization of that.
Like some really dramatic scene all the time, that it's like even more maybe post-production and after it, not just like in the picture.
Yeah.
That it was taking. And also there's almost every picture is like the picture of the wire fence, even if it is just in background. I also think that that's mean that there's still strict borders and the military can really watch it. So
yes,
it's the main picture or pattern what we can see almost through every sources that we find out.
Yeah, for me it's a lot about we are still holding the border. Like if it was a fantasy or something like that, and not a real story with real humans that are suffering. So that is the first category. The second one, which was also quite common, but not so much. I think that these like military ones were like 70 or 80% of I've seen.
Yeah.
The second one was more about solidarity and showing, no, this is not the one, this one, like showing the refugees, showing like different groups of them, but mostly children.
And this is like really interesting thing that it's like also the men's are with the children's pictured many times. It's just like this maybe turns of masculinity, which is not really necessary to protect the border, but also the keeper of the kids. And also I really love this picture. It's like, you know, men pieta, which is also kind of show the empathy with the refugees, and also men ones, not just the women and kids.
Yeah, and quite often it's also like the old cliche of children next to the fence, but it's nice to see like also new types. Then one category that is quite, okay, missed this one, quite often is the family life, like showing that the migrants are just normal people, or how to say it, that they have like normal needs and normal, that they are humans that really need some basic supplements and so on.
Yeah, and a lot of pictures of whole families like having dinner together, and also this picture when it's like even there is no faces or even no human on this. It's really personal stuff, I guess, because it's like the personal stuff of the kids hanging on the fence. So
yeah, quite often there was really big contrast between the military and the personal. This is that type as well, I think. Then we had like more rare representations, like activists and citizens who get involved into the issues, but this was quite rare, this type.
But it's also can be seen even there's no activist on the picture, like maybe through the pictures which not really taken by professionals. So we can also like see the participation of normal people who can help through this picture when they are not shown them.
Yeah, that's true. Then there was category of devastation presentation, like you can see that the camp of the refugees is like in the fire. There is a lot of steam, a lot of dirt, that they are cutting down the trees and so on. I think we have experienced this kind of showing that kind of visual representation already with other migration crises, that there was this narrative of the refugees like devastating our land or something like that. But it was also not so common. And the last one, yeah, Teresa?
Yeah, the last one, there is like a really interesting focus on a bird view. Then you can see like the difference between those two sides, actually. That you can see the fence and what's like difference between those two people, and that's actually really common also. And yeah.
Yeah, and we call this a category also a category of tension, because, for example, this one is not so much, it is not taken from the bird view, but mostly those bird views are focused on the tension between those two sides, like we are holding them back, we are taking control, or they're human, they who need some help, and it looks like this, and so on. So there is a big tension between those two sides, and these bird view photographs are building their narratives on these on this yeah, on this.
Yeah, and also waiting for what's going to be next from the both sides.
Yes, yeah. So I think this applies also to pictures that are taken from the not from the bird view, from the eye level, actually.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. So these were all the categories we found, basically.
Thank you very much, Barbara and Teresa. I find it very interesting, as I'm in these days I'm kind of searching for the media, looking at the pictures, and obviously it can be seen that the patterns do exist, and they again create and build the narrative which we are experiencing at this moment. So thank you very much all. I would just briefly summarize what maybe are my first thoughts based on the research I've conducted, and then I would get back to the presentation, and I would like just ask 3 questions to leave them open and just for us to think about them, and then to provide us with time to refresh ourselves, to have lunch, and then to get back in the afternoon for Bahar's session. So what were my notes? And I'm just like going very briefly through them. What I found very important was what immediately Boris pointed out on, and that's the methodological challenge of this workshop. Obviously, we have different languages, we have different understanding of the context, which is very important, and I very much enjoyed the way how you've actually reflected on that you were searching even for your regional media, and then we are talking about some country or nation-like narrative, and we can think actually about the differences, or you were actually showing the differences, and you were thinking like the group working on a Holocaust about the differences when you are using the languages, and even in your own language, when you actually use the different term immediately, it triggers a different set of images. So this way, the way how the algorithms create our collective memory, this digital turn in the collective visual memory, is something we should definitely think about, this digitization of our life, which doesn't go only through the way how we communicate it daily, but how we commemorate, how we remember. So I do believe it's actually, those are mental practices, those are mental social practices, which been digitized as well. So this is one important thing just to reflect in our practice. Then what I also very much enjoyed was, it was seen in the first group talking about the war in Yugoslavia, about the moment when you refuse to be represented. Actually, this right, the thinking about the right, who has the right to represent, you know, that you can refuse to be represented. You can do it through the gesture, you can just say no, you can escape, you can turn your back, etc. And I think that also the way how we work with these images of refugees, also when we are working with them as researchers or visual activists. So then to think about how sensitive the data are. These people are not here to be documented. They are supposed to live their lives. And we are turning them into being objects of observation. Even though we do it very responsibly and with all the sensitivity we have, we can be self-critical as much as we can, but still they are not supposed to be documented. And that's the thing. This is something which is happening without them. And also the moment, just try to imagine yourself living your worst moments in the life and doing it on the stage. This confestation of traumatization on the stage of the global objective is really something which I do believe we always have to sensitively think about. Then again, these gendered roles, which may be which now might be contested a little bit, as was suggested by Teresa and Bara. For example, when we were watching the pictures from the war in Yugoslavia, there was immediately this active role of men who were fighting either on that side or the other or the third side. How many sides just were in the war in Yugoslavia? And the passivity of women, who are supposed to be more even like the victims, to be saved, or actually they are supposed to be passive and take care of the family. And now we can see maybe some new moments when the men are represented as fathers. And also this male pieta was very, very interesting. Even though already in 2017, there were some research articles, actually there was this global photographic prize that was won by by one photographer who actually captured the father who was a refugee taking care of the kids. But it seemed to be, and it was like a huge debate about it, how it's important, this male representation of men being fathers. But at the end, eventually, it seems to be that still proportionally, still is this gendered view of men being active and not being kind of linked with the roles in the families, but being more fighters or terrorists, or being them on the move, being active or participating in the military or official power is still like dominant, even though this might be changing. What I very much enjoyed also was this fact that the pictures from the Holocaust, they are so much about details, so much about family portraits, about family pictures, because this is something that is missing nowadays in the stories of nowadays refugees. They are completely depersonalized, they are completely anonymized. But nowadays the Holocaust has been already established as the topic, as a visual narrative. And it's based on remembering those who were lost. So the family pictures, they are these objects of loss, always were. So obviously this family histories, children and women, so they are telling these stories, these family portraits. And then also the last two moments which I would like to comment is this positioning of official and personal, which was very nicely seen on this clothing, which was on the fence, hanging on the fence, as really like personal objects, and which nicely Teresa commented about, that we don't see the people, but we see something very sensitive and very personal. I would like, it reminded me one installation which was in Terezín, which was the ghetto located in the Czech Republic, very close to Prague, by Kamila Ženatá, who's a visual artist living in the Czech Republic. And she actually put everywhere the clothing of the people throughout the ghetto, throughout the rooms. There were no people, but actually immediately it was such a personal and sensitive place to be and to experience. So this is one moment when Pavel was commenting about him being moved with the picture when there is a woman with a kid, but there is no face. So maybe sometimes it's possible not to show the faces of the people, but not to dehumanize them. And then the last observation is about the perspectives, how much it plays role, and Boris was commenting on them. And also Teresa and Barbara, when you were talking about the aerial views, that they can show the strict distinction and division. It's us, it's them. You are here, we are there, and you are not coming to us for sure. Then what can do these details and wide shots? So here are my comments, some general observations. I hope that they make sense when in relation to what we were talking about. And these are my last questions, which I would like to share with you for my workshop, or for our workshop, because you've created the half of the content, and it was a really good one. So the last, what I would like to ask you, and we can think about it and we can take it with us, is actually, can be the existence of repetitively displayed figures of migration seen as a negative or positive fact. So is there any positive aspect of stereotypes, of visual icons? Which representations of migration are missing in the contemporary media? And why is not there? And how we can make it to be there? And which platforms and channels have or can have the power to change the visuality of migration? What we can do? Where should we contribute with our research, with our practice, with our opinions? Or should we create something new? So these are very big, but I believe also of big importance, these questions, and I do believe that they nicely relate to what we were talking about. So at this moment, I would like to thank all of you for your work. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Even though the workshop has some limitations, it's online, we are working with Google searches, but you kind of hacked it immediately methodologically, which I very much enjoyed. And at this moment, I would like to invite you to join again at 2:30 for the workshop, which will be run by Bahar Behbahani. She will share her own practice. She will have, she's going to have a short presentation, and then we will start with the questions that she sent before. I will be moderating, I will be present, so hope that you will be too. Pavel has a question, please go ahead.
Great. Can you just maybe copy paste the questions in the chat?
From the
possible?
From my PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I will do it at this moment. Copy pasting it. You have it here.
Nice.
Okay. Great. So enjoy the lunch, enjoy the break. We have more than 1 hour, and then we will go again. Inspire us. Bye.